we continue our conversation about the CPAC speech from Donald Trump this last Saturday. Like I said, probably the most thorough, policy-oriented political speech the man has given in quite some time. Let's, though, go to the part of the speech where he relentlessly, mercilessly mocked Ron DeSanctimonious as the corrupt, ineffective, globalist elite that he is. Go ahead, let's watch that clip. Oh, wait, he didn't do that. In fact, he didn't mention Ron DeSantis once. In other words, he's been watching this program and he took my advice. Sebastian Gorka from America First here on Salem News Channel. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
So that was it was refreshing. Everyone was
well,
waiting.
For those who
they
support,
were waiting for him.
Ron.
No, I don't support Ron.
I spoke to you immediately after the speech, or maybe to another radio host, and I brought up the governor's name, and he said, "Why did you have to bring it up?" You know why, Larry? Because he wasn't stinking there.
I know. You're right.
No, hang on.
I agree with you.
Let's stop on this.
Yeah.
This is the biggest conservative event, not in America, in the world. In terms of numbers, it's the biggest. And the guy who has been anointed by so many as the savior of the MAGA movement, the Donald Trump without Donald Trump, where the hell was he?
Yeah. You're right.
You've got Nikki Haley on the stage.
Biggest.
He doesn't have the oomph to come.
Biggest unforced political error of his career. Absolutely. And especially not just that he didn't come to CPAC, but where he was.
Yeah.
The fact that he did a private little billionaire club for growth speech. Horrible decision by him. But it was me. Right after the speech, you looked at me and you said, let's see Ron DeSantis give that speech. And you're right. But however, it is interesting that so many people, the first perspective after that speech was to immediately compare it to whether Ron DeSantis was capable of doing it, rather than let it stand on its own.
But that's what we've been told, isn't it? That's what the
Yeah.
DeSimpers, as they're called, have been telling us. Oh, it's time for the old man to stand aside. It's like, well, then we're going to compare it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the results in the poll, the second person is DeSantis. I mean, he's crushed by President Trump. I mean, utterly crushed.
Yeah.
Right? But he's the second guy. So, of course, he's going to be compared.
And when they showed clips of him, they did that montage before the president came out to speech. He got a huge round of applause. He would have been greeted warmly had he come. So I agree.
Right. And he's, still the governor.
Right.
A lot of Floridians I know say they'd like him to stay the governor. He's a young man. And also, if he's smart, look, he could be president in 2028.
Well, not after you guys are done with him.
Why?
I mean, you're calling him a globalist. You say that he doesn't have any.
I said one thing about Ron. I've said one thing again and again and again. Ron, don't let yourself be used by those who hate the movement. When a Ken Griffin, a billionaire who was the biggest bundler for Obama, is now funding DeSantis, you have to say, Ron, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, we can't go back and dig up everybody's political contributions. Otherwise, we'll have to look at all the money that Donald Trump gave to
Ken
Democrats.
Griffin, when you're a realtor in Manhattan, but Ron isn't a realtor in Manhattan.
Let's focus on some of the things that got huge applause lines. I think you'll agree when he said we're going to keep men from women's sports.
That was the number one.
I agree. Transgender policy, we're going to do away with Biden's transgender policies and all that stuff. One could argue, though, that he could have just said, all those things that Ron DeSantis did down in Florida on curriculum and transgender sports, we'll just do that federally. I mean, those are DeSantis'
Well, if you're obsessed
policies.
with Ron DeSantis, but I thought you weren't.
I'm not.
I'm confused.
I'm challenging you.
Confused.
I challenged Jim Hansen just moments ago
Right.
from the Trump perspective. Now I'm challenging you from the DeSantis perspective.
Is he supposed to define himself based upon other politicians, or is he supposed to define himself?
But I
upon
think
himself?
President Trump, I think, could do himself some favors by actually complimenting the effective job that DeSantis has done in Florida. Because he does need those votes.
But he's not there to compliment DeSantis.
Right.
He's there to give his policy platform.
Well, he complimented a lot of people from the stage.
He gave them shout-outs because they were there, because they had the gall to come, because they weren't afraid to come. You walked into it, Larry.
I dangled it out there for you. Well, I'll be honest, it's hard for me to challenge you on this because I was taken by the speech. You just heard my intro. I think it was the most substantive policy speech that he's given that I can remember, even compared to some of his brilliant, especially that first State of the Union address that he gave.
And it confirms what I've been saying, and I wasn't sure whether it was just my bias, but for me, the biggest issue that will red pill tens of millions is the transgender.
Yeah.
And when you see that, like not stopping the wars in Ukraine, not sealing the border, which is why he got elected the first time. It's stopping the transgender mutilation of children and men in women's sports was the line of the day.
Absolutely great. I agree. Totally agree. All right. What about, it was a very important moment because listen, this speech lays down the marker for every other candidate, and it lays down the marker for Democrats. They all must now respond to these policy positions. When he said in 4 years, we are going to stop the import of products from China, how does he do that? Are we talking about tariffs? Are we talking about, that is so contrary to the idea that most Republicans have known since the Reagan era, Milton Friedman kind of idea that ultimately free trade and I want to use the word global, but the global ability to have American economic policies influence eventually the social and political policies in China.
Remember what the president always said when he was in office. It's free trade, but it's fair trade, right? And it will start with tariffs. And remember, and I'm so glad this happened because he deserves it. What did he made some people, he pulled them out of the crowd, whether it was Matt Gaetz or Mike Lindell.
Yeah.
Gordon Chang.
I was so happy as well. Yeah, I agree.
Said, that's the man who understands China. And Gordon says it again and again and again. He's such a champion. Why the hell is the nation that is meant to be the shining beacon of liberty doing business with the world's biggest communist dictatorship that has Laogai labor camps and forced organ harvesting of political prisoners? It's just wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, it'll take 20 years to decouple, but it has to start day one.
What's changed? Because those kind of things, those policies, they were in place in 2016 when he took office. He tried for those 4 years to do business with China. What's different now? Just the virus?
No, I think we have to build upon what he did then, which is tariffs. What's different? Well, look, I think COVID is part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, people keep saying, hardliners say, we've got to have reparations from China. Sorry, you've got a nuclear nation. You're not going to get reparations out of a communist dictatorship that has nuclear weapons. But you can make them hurt through tariffs.
He also called out former Ambassador Rick Grinnell in a positive way when he called him out and highlighted the great policies with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that Grinnell and Trump pushed, and Pompeo, of course, pushed in Europe. By rescinding that, Joe Biden basically gave a blank check to Vladimir Putin. When he said, I'll solve the war, on day one it'll be over, how exactly?
I did a 6-hour Twitter Spaces yesterday on that. Number one, it'll end the day the second he's sworn in, Putin will say, okay, guys, we better think twice.
This is like Ronald Reagan with the Iranian hostages.
Totally.
Yeah. New sheriff.
Let me just tell you a story. When we were in the White House and we saw 300 Russian mercenaries running around Syria, who aren't mercenaries, they're actually Wagner Group working for the Kremlin. President Trump ordered all 300 to be killed. We turned them into red mist in 24 hours. No president, not even Reagan, has killed 300 Russian operators ever since 1917. Putin is afraid of this man. So there'll be
You think it's unconditional surrender?
No. It'll be a stopping the fighting, and then there'll be some kind of negotiated settlement that President Trump will be a part of.
See, now these days, if a political, I've said that before, and I'm accused of being in bed with Putin when I've said, why don't we negotiate some peace?
You can't negotiate with him now. Right now, when he's bombing maternity clinics. There's no off-ramp for a KGB colonel who's bombing maternity clinics. We have to have a strong man in the White House who has the iron fist in the velvet glove. Negotiating now with a senile old man in the White House is pointless.
Who do you think Zelensky wants to win the next election?
I think that's pretty obvious.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, remember, when Obama was sending blankets to Kiev, we came in and we gave them Javelin anti-tank rockets. I think they need more rockets than blankets.
Well, if that's the measure, he's certainly going to get more from Joe Biden, won't he? I mean, Biden's given him everything that he wants armament-wise.
He didn't, remember? Remember? Poland, F-16s, backfilling the MiGs. He reneged on that, right?
All right, you got me on that one as well. All right. You got to be a happy man, though. As a supporter of Donald Trump, that really was a terrific speech.
Superb, and so was CPAC. I mean, the whole thing, it's where you go to recharge your conservative batteries.
Yeah. I think everybody should watch that exchange with Rick Grinnell and Jennifer Palmieri. I think that was brilliant and a real good, focused foreign policy, national security discussion about where we are now compared to where we were.
Well, but only after they've watched my 40-minute interview with the president on my show on Tuesday.
I think, haven't they already? Oh, it's coming up this
Tuesday?
No, yeah, from last year. But they've already seen that. Are you kidding?
Sure?
They play it on a loop.
Have you?
But if they don't, make sure they do. Sebastian, my colleague, it's always great to see you. We'll be back. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.